and it like draws her opponent Bakugan toward her, where she delivers a final strike.
Dragonoid!
What up, everyone? It's your boy Floz MG back with another episode of Tear Up, and this time I am ranking Brawlers Bakugan. Like, I did one about ranking Metal Fusion BeyBlades a while ago, and that kind of brought back some childhood memories for people, so I thought, hey, might as well do this one. Without further ado, let's get right into it, shall we? Before this video starts, I just want to say that only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you like this video and want to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything, and you can always change your mind in the future. Now back to the video. The rankings for this video are as follows: God Tier, Battle Brawler, Masquerade Lackey, Doom Dimension, and Cancelled. Alright, let's see what we're working with. First Bakugan we're starting off with is Bee Striker. This Bakugan, well, as his name would kind of give, he sort of looks like a bee, but with his stinger like straight down and outwards. You only ever see this Bakugan, I think, in the Ventus attribute, the Wind attribute. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen him in any other attribute, so there's not really much uniqueness or memorability about him. In fact, there really isn't much about him, so Bee Striker, I'm sorry, but you're the cancelled boy. Next up, we have Centipoid. As the name would give, he does look like a centipede, except far more menacing. Based on his overall look and how menacing he is, he definitely deserves to be above Bee Striker. Most definitely. You know, I think I'll put him halfway at Masquerade Lackey. That seems fair to me. Alright, next up we have Cycloid. This is Billy's partner Bakugan, bearing the Subterra attribute. As the name Cycloid would give, he is indeed a Cyclops with a giant fucking hammer. That'd be a pretty fun game of whack-a-mole. So, he is a pretty interesting looking Bakugan, but I think the hammer gives him just a couple more points, so I think I'm going to put Cycloid up in Battle Brawler. I mean, that's just me. Moving on, we have Preyas Dragonoid. As the name would give, Preyas, he bears the Fire attribute. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, Subterra was the Earth attribute. But Preyas Dragonoid, bearing the Fire attribute. This is Dan Kuso's partner Bakugan. And also the main hero Bakugan throughout the entire goddamn series. So, for just being the goddamn hero itself and being the first Dragonoid we see, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind that he's a freaking god tier. Next up we have Preyas Delta Dragonoid. And what I mean by Delta Dragonoid is because this is the evolved version of the Dragonoid we saw previously. So yeah, there's evolution in this game. This game? I don't know. This show anyway. He definitely gets a new shape and a new form. And I will say, this is my least favorite amongst all the Dragonoid evolutions, so I'm just not a big fan of it. Well, I'm sorry, but buddy, you're going in the Doom Dimension. You're at least better than Bee Striker. Be glad you're not that bad. Alright, next up we have Preyas Ultimate Dragonoid. Yeah, this guy evolves a lot throughout the series. Basically what his body kind of looks like now is just like a dragon infused with magma lines on him? I don't fucking know. But the point is, he looks different, and I will say I do prefer this look as opposed to Delta Dragonoid. So we'll put you right here in Masquerade Lackey, because honestly, I still like Cycloid better than you, but hey. And next up, the final Dragonoid evolution in this show, Preyas Infinity Dragonoid. This is the form he goes into right after he absorbs the Infinity Core, and yeah, I'm sorry. If you've never seen Bakugan, yeah, I'm definitely spoiling this for you. But do I give a shit? Not at all! This is the first evolution of Dragonoid where we see the sort of blue diamond on his chest. Do I know what that is? Not really. But being as the first one to introduce that blue diamond on his chest, hey, I mean, come on. Come on. All right, next up we have El Condor. This isn't it's not really a unique Bakugan, but it is pretty fucking cool. What this guy essentially looks like is a sort of like a sort of tiki head with arms and legs. That's literally the best way I can describe him. Based on the looks, he's definitely above Beast Striker and Delta Dragonoid. Is he above Centipoid though? No, I think he's on par with Centipoid. He's just right there. Next up we have Falconeer. Falconeer is a Bakugan that, as takes after his name, like a sort of a falcon, but with more human-esque features? Is that even a fucking word? I don't know. Falconeer has a pretty interesting sort of helmet. I don't know if that's part of his face, but the name of him, it does have a bit of creativity-ish, but overall physical features, I'm not a big fan. Sorry. Alright, next up we have, this one has a badass name. We have motherfucking Fear Ripper. I mean, just for that goddamn name alone, not including the giant freaking talons on the edge of all his fingers. Yeah, but just for the name alone,
Is a motherfucking go there?
why the fuck do I do that? Am I high or something? I don't know. Alright, next up we have Pyrus Fortress, partner Bakugan to Chan Li. This guy, 4 arms, 4 flaming swords, and he has 4 different personalities. There's like just a normal stone-faced. There's joy, there's sadness, and anger. Wow. I will say I do kind of like the way Fortress looks and how he battles. I don't think he rises right to God tier though. Battle Brawler is still a good achievement in itself. Alright, next up we have Garganoid, as the name would suggest, based off of Gargoyle. I will say, as opposed to Falconeer, like all the winged Bakugan, like as opposed to Falconeer, this one is pretty good. I do like the way this guy looks. But still, I don't really think it rises to Battle Brawler level, so still on par with Centipoid. Next up, we have Subterra Goram. This guy is a motherfucking giant. Like, this guy's maybe, I'd say, a third of the Empire State Building, maybe? I could be wrong. Still, that doesn't change the fact that he's freaking gigantic. And he can pack quite a wallop. I will say that. However, in the show, oh yeah, he's the Bakugan partner of Julie. And in the show, he doesn't exactly win that much. Or Julie isn't the best brawler, but and I think for that fact, I have to move him down to Masquerade Lackey. Yeah, I'm sorry. It is what it is. Although, next up we have his evolution, Subterra Hammer Goram. The evolved version of Goram. He grows these like 2 horns out of his head. He gets, I think, much bigger. And a freaking throwable hammer. Like, picture, like in Minecraft, what a wooden pickaxe would look like. And stick them together like one of those freaking lightsabers that Darth Maul has. And that's the hammer of Subterra Hammer Goram. Except it's giant and he can throw it and it would hurt. It would hurt. Honestly, Hammer Goram is far more memorable than just regular Goram, so. He's a battle brawler boy. Alright, next up we have Griffin. This is one of the few Bakugan that I think are 4-legged instead of stand on 2 legs and have like human-esque features. Still, is that a word? I will say Griffin is one of my favorite looking Bakugan, and I kind of like him a bit more than Centipoid. Battle brawler boy. Alright, next up we have Ventus Harpus, Bakugan partner of Kamba. Actually, I think I did an impression of this bitch a while ago. I would have put Harpus up in God tier, but her fucking annoying ass voice, that bumped her all the way down to Masquerade Lackey.
I'm sorry, bitch, but you did that to yourself.
Alright, next up we have Darkest Hydranoid, Bakugan partner of Masquerade. Hydranoid was the first, unique Darkest Bakugan to be introduced. And, well, let's just say he packed a pretty big punch. And, he and Masquerade both had it out for Dan and Drago. They just wanted them gone. As for Bakugan himself, As for Bakugan, he does look pretty cool. The name Hydranoid, I like it. Let's put him in Battle Brawler. Next up, we have Hydranoid's first evolution, Darkest Dual Hydranoid. I will say, this is the first evolution where it brings him onto his hind legs. And I think that was one of the sort of first Bakugan to be evolved to go onto their hind legs. And he grew another freaking head. And he has this, sort of rolling spike thing on his chest. I don't even know where to begin. But as opposed to the first one, he doesn't look as cool. But for all the new shit he got, I do want to put him on par in Battle Brawler. Alright, next up we have the final evolution of Hydranoid, Darkest Alpha Hydranoid. He grows yet another head, he gains freaking wings, and more spike things on his rolly chest. This guy has become a fucking beast! And he deserves God tier. Next up we have Hynoid. This was the best picture I can get of him. He's sort of like a sort of wolf Bakugan that stands on his hind legs. Sort of? I don't know. Point is, he didn't really leave that much of an impression on me. He's kind of on par with, if not below, Beast Striker. Sorry. Next up we have Juggernoid. Juggernoid, he's a bit of a giant turtle Bakugan, but still. At some point in this series, I forgot which episode, I think episode 24? How the fuck do I know that? He becomes the Bakugan partner of this young battler who was about to give up his career battling named Chris. And once Chris found his confidence and started believing in himself and believing he could do good in battle, Juggernoid was able to talk. I think he's one of the very few, non-unique Bakugan. There's a bunch of Juggernoids. He's one of the very few non-unique Bakugans that are able to that have been able to speak. And that alone earns him a spot up in God tier. Let go, Juggernoid. Alright, next up we have Laserman. Laserman, he's sort of like a robot Bakugan. I think we've only ever seen 1 or 2 Laserman Bakugan ever in the series. And both of them were Darkest. And because of how rarely we see him, he doesn't leave the best impression on me, so... Sorry, but you're going to the Doom Dimension. Alright, next up we have Limulus. I don't even know what to describe him as. Clearly he's an Aquos Bakugan. Aquos, the attribute of water. I can only really describe him as a sort of scallop crab thing. You only ever see him in the Aquos attribute. He doesn't... There really isn't much he could do. Not much cool, unique features. But I do like him better than Hynoid and Beast Striker. Next up we have Mannion. I feel like this is something you would see flying around freaking Egypt. And honestly, the way I would describe this is an Egyptian griffin. But I will say Mannion's pretty cool, unique design. I think I'm going to put him right in the middle. Right over here in Masquerade Lackey. Alright, next up we have Mantris. As you can guess, this guy is a giant mantis. And the freaking... I don't even know what his hand things are. But there's a cool ability called Marionette that Mantris can do, whereas he can pick up an opponent Bakugan and throw him onto another gate card. Again, if you've never seen the show, you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. So why am I actually explaining it? Mantris, he did leave a lot better impression on me than most of the Masquerade Lackey Bakugan, so he's going up to Battle Brawler. And I know I'm putting some of them in between others that are already there. Fuck off. Next up we have Monarus. Monarus is a sort of butterfly Bakugan who I think we only see as a Ventus Bakugan. And we only ever see Shun battle with Monarus, I just realized. Yeah, Shun is the only one who's ever battled with a Monarus. And actually, I think based on that very own uniqueness in that we only see Monarus with Shun, I mean, I want to put it in God tier. I mean, hey. Alright, next up we have Aquos Preyas. By far, if not my favorite Bakugan in all of the series. Preyas has a unique ability where he can change his attribute from Aquos to either Subterra or Darkus. And believe me, that comes in handy. So you know what? Preyas goes in God tier in front of everybody else. Now, Preyas was a Bakugan to evolve, but his evolution involved multiplication. So you still had Preyas, but you get another Bakugan from him called Aquos Preyas Angelo. As the name Angelo would suggest, this sort of evolution of Preyas is angel-like, but he also has powers of a Chaos Bakugan as well. So he's got the power of Chaos and Aquos. But because he's not Preyas, like not the original Preyas, yeah, you're good, but you're not Preyas good. And where there's light, there's darkness, with Aquos Preyas Diablo. This is sort of Angelo's alter ego, and it's in the same sort of Bakugan ball. One side's Angelo, the other side's Diablo, like light and dark. But this guy, he doesn't have the powers of Aquos and Darkus, like you may suggest. He instead has the power of Aquos and Pyrus. But overall, I don't like his design as much as I do Angelo's. It is interesting, but honestly, I think my opinion is with that is on par with Delta Dragonoid. Alright, next up we have Radoloid. As that name would kind of suggest, Radoloid is a giant rattlesnake Bakugan, where the only attribute we ever see Radoloid in, I'm pretty sure, is Subterra. This one didn't leave as much of an impression, but still a better impression as opposed to freaking B-Striker. Radoloid is a Doom Dimension Bakugan. Honestly, I'm a little sleep deprived right now. Next up we have Ravenoid. Ravenoid, the best I can describe it, is a much more dark and brooding version of Falconeer. And that's me trying my best to describe it. Other than that, there's not really that much uniqueness, so I think I'm going to put it right next to Falconeer. Next up we have Reaper. We've only ever seen Reaper in darkest form, and he was originally the main antagonist Bakugan until Hydranoid was introduced. But hey, yo, Reaper looks menacing as fuck. And like the name, how he looks, I have to put him in God tier. Next up, we have Robotallion. He's also a sort of robot Bakugan like Laserman, but there's been a lot more different attributes of Robotallion than Laserman, and he's just far more interesting to me. He's at least going a step up into Masquerade Lackey. That's just my opinion. Next up, we have Saurus. I guess he's supposed to be like a sort of dinosaur Bakugan. He has a freaking horn on his nose, two coming out of his head. He looks like a sort of like a gladiator dinosaur Bakugan. That's the best I can describe it as, and again, still left a better impression than B-Striker and Hydranoid. In fact, I think I'm gonna put him at the head of Doom Dimension. Like, he doesn't exactly rise to the standards of anyone above, but still, that's pretty good. Next up, we have Serpenoid. Also a sort of snake Bakugan, but not a rattlesnake one. More of like a serpent Bakugan. Hence the name Serpenoid. We've seen Serpenoid in a few more attributes than we did a Radoloid, so I think for that fact alone, we're giving him over to Masquerade Lackey. I really love how this next Bakugan looks. This is Siege. Like, there was a Bakugan Battle Brawlers game, and I think for playing that, Siege was one of my favorite Bakugan to choose. When I say Bakugan Battle Brawlers game, I'm not talking like the actual physical game, but like there was a game of it on the Wii that I loved to play, and Siege was my favorite one to use. And I think for that fact, you know what, fuck it. Make him a god tier! Hey, it's my video, I decide. If you don't like it, go bye-bye. Alright, next up we have Aquos Cyranoid, partner Bakugan to Klaus. the top-ranked Aqua Brawler in the world. Well, in the show anyway. Gyronoid is like a sort of like a mermaid Bakugan. She has this like little harp thing that she can play with, I think that ability is called Anthemusa. And it like draws her opponent Bakugan toward her, where she delivers a final strike.
Garganoid!
So I think we'll put her up in Battle Brawler. I think that's fair. Alright, next up we have Ventus Skyress, partner Bakugan to Shun Kazami. And Shun, he is a fucking mood and a half. I will say Skyress is one of the most uniquely... I will say Skyress is one of, I think, the coolest design Bakugan. And do I want to put her up in God tier? You know what? Yes, I do. And then there's her evolution into Ventus Storm Skyress. Can Skyress get any cooler? I thought she couldn't after the first Skyress. Then I was wrong. Skyress becoming even cooler means a higher place in God tier. Next up is the Bakugan Stinglash. Stinglash is sort of like a Bakugan that's a scorpion. Two really massive pinchers. The freaking tail with the poison needle thingy. I don't know what that's called. But I think this is a pretty cool looking Bakugan. Not cool enough to get into Battle Brawler though. I'll put it up in Masquerade Lackey. Oh, this fucking thing. Next up we have Chaos Tentacleer. Chaos, the attribute of light. Tentacleer is partner Bakugan to Julio. This thing is literally just a goddamn eyeball. And I don't really see the appeal of it. I have depression. I want to put it in cancelled so bad, but it's still not as bad as Hydranoid and Beast Striker. Still nowhere near. We'll put it right here. Alright, next up we have Terror Claw. This one is a bit closer to a crab-looking Bakugan than Stinglash and Limulus were. And I will say, it was far more interesting looking and left far more of an impression on me. So I think we'll put it like somewhere in the middle of Masquerade Lackey. Like, right here. Next up, we have Chaos Tigrerra. Partner Bakugan to Runo. And Runo, I think we all knew a Runo in real life, but hey, she was pretty cool though. I think in the show, Tigrerra was one of my favorite looking Bakugan. I'm not going to say she's God tier Bakugan. I think she rises just to the cusp of Battle Brawler. Next up, we have her evolution into Blade Tigrerra. I will say, out of all the evolutions, going into Blade Tigrerra was one of my least favorite. Although they did bring Tigrerra onto her hind legs and a lot of blade shooting out of her body, I think the amount of blades was just a little overdone, to the point where I think I had to put it maybe somewhere in the middle of Doom Dimension. That's my opinion, though. Next up, we have Tuskor. A sort of a elephant mammoth-like Bakugan with, like, 4 tusks coming out, I think. And I think the only ability we ever see used on Tuskor is an ability called No Slap, where literally he takes his trunk and can attack any Bakugan on the field. I will say that's a pretty cool ability, but it doesn't get you any higher than Doom Dimension. Like right in the middle of Doom Dimension. Next up, ooh, this is one of my favorite Bakugan. We have Warriors. This Bakugan, as you would guess, is sort of like a warrior-looking Bakugan, all rude. And it has like this sort of like giant double hammer thing. I don't know what it's called. Like a double club thing? Why am I trying to explain this shit? He just looks fucking cool. To the point where I'm half tempted to put him in God tier. And I'm gonna put him up in God tier. This is the first tier list in a while where the list had to freaking double one of its things. And last but not least, we have Wormquake. Basically, it's like a giant freaking worm, and that's pretty much it. I didn't think it was possible, but there was one that was less memorable than Beast Striker and Hydranoid. Save the worst for last, I guess? And I think this is where I'm going to leave my list. I've been Floz MG. This has been Ranking Battle Brawlers Bakugan, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video. Bye!
bitch, I ain't your hero. Don't call me a savior. Think I'm out of control, that's just my behavior. I'm bringing the house down, major devastation. You don't gotta worry, cause it don't matter. I'm antisocial.